I had to trudge through these awful romance scenes just to get to the part of the book that I actually wanted to read. Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, The Pink Raven. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about some of the books that I've been reading over the past few months and last year. One of the books that I've been reading was Children and Blood of Bones by Tomi Adeyemi, but unfortunately I had to DNF it. Now before you guys come at me, I just want to say that I do recommend the book. It's not a bad book, it was just not for me. Unfortunately, when I got to halfway to the book, it started going into romance, and I'm not a romance person. I was just more into the ride of the book, and I found that the fantasy side, the world building side, was just much more interesting to me. Then I got to the romance and I sort of just checked out. So I just wanted to go through some of the things that I really did enjoy about this book, and then some of the things that I didn't enjoy about this book. And I wanted to talk about some of the books that I've been reading from indie authors who I believe you would definitely enjoy. So let's jump right into it. The first thing I want to talk about is the plot. Now, the plot I gave 4 stars, and I think it was a very good, very well developed plot in terms of a YA fantasy book. When you follow the journey of each of the characters, especially Zaylee, you find that there's a lot to unpack when it comes to the world she lives in. So the name of the world in Children of Blood and Bone is called Orisha. And Orisha is based on Nigeria, specifically Yoruba. I would like to believe that's what it's based on. The culture is very similar. However, it leaves a lot of room for the author to just imagine how she would envision Yoruba, which I think is very good in world building. When it comes to the story, what the story is about, what the story entails, it's not a bad book. I think for that reason alone, I would recommend it. There are lots of people who really enjoy YA fantasy. They just need a break from the medieval setting of most YA fantasy books. I would definitely tell them to go and check out Children of Blood and Bone, because it was one of the books that I started reading when I wanted to venture out from the typical YA fantasy setting, and it really intrigued me. It captured me, and just based on the plot alone, I would have given this book a 4 stars, probably 5 stars. Before I get into what I didn't enjoy about the book, I wanted to hit on the writing style of the book. Now, the writing style for Children of Blood and Bone, not Children and, Children of Blood and Bone isn't like a easily digestible writing style if you typically enjoy reading books that are written in past tense. I'm one of those people who enjoy reading books written in the past tense, and this book was written in present tense. At first, it felt weird, but as I kept reading on, it definitely grew on me. The next problem that, well, not really a problem, but the next thing about the writing style was that it started off really strong, and then it started to, mellow down. And I think at that point, that's when I started just losing interest in the book overall. It wasn't so much that the writing style was bad, it was just more of it wasn't my style of writing or my style that I enjoyed reading when it came to picking up a book and saying, okay, I'm going to read this all the way through. So I ended up, one of the reasons DNF in the book was because of the writing style. Now, the main reason why I found myself kind of struggling with whether or not I should push through the book and whether or not I should just end it right there was because at the midway point in the book, or probably around 60% of the book, it started diving into romance. And that's where I got into a bit of a problem because I did not enjoy how the romance was presented in the book. Now, when you go on Goodreads and you go on Amazon reviews, you would see tons of people saying this book was amazing. And I'm not going to say they're wrong because it does have a strong plot. It just doesn't have a strong romance, plot, I should say. The romance that Adeyemi writes into the book isn't the romance that I typically like seeing. And keep in mind that these characters are children. I just didn't want to see romance. I kind of was more into the journey, into the struggles, into Zaylee getting the items she needed. I don't want to give too much away, but getting the items she needed to basically, save the day, as one might say. But when it came to 60% of the book, and they were trying to force this romance that I just couldn't see, it became a little bit overwhelming. It became more of I had to trudge through these awful romance scenes just to get to the part of the book that I actually wanted to read. And it got so overwhelming, I put the book down and for a while just never took it back up. And it started to turn from weeks to months to almost a whole year. And I just realized I'm not going to finish this book. But will I tell people not to read the book? No, I think what I would say is if you're already into the YA genre and you're already looking for something that's different and that's out there, I will tell you read this book because it's not a bad book. The plot is very intriguing. The characters are very well developed. This is the author's first book. Next door neighbor. This is the author's first book, and she did a pretty good job on it. Okay, so before I end, I wanted to tell you guys about some of the other books that I've been reading by indie authors. And one of the books I just finished reading was by Lorene Decourt. Her book, Notes on the Train, is basically a poetry book. It's a book compiled with a lot of the poems that she wrote during a time when she was going through a lot. And I find that those poems are so emotional, so deep, and so captivating that I kept reading and kept reading on. It's not the typical kind of book that I would find myself reading, but it was a book that I decided I want to read mainly because I write a lot of poetry and I wanted to see how poetry books out there are structured. And I felt like if I'm going to dive into that, I would rather dive into that with an indie author that, is up and coming just like me and would like that support. Lorene Decourt is one of the many indie authors who've reached out to me asking to get her book reviewed. I decided on my blog to put up some incentive for me and for other authors to just read indie books and to support other fellow indie authors. So I did this call to action where I asked indie authors to pitch me their books and I'll look into it, I'll buy it, and I'll do a full honest review on my blog. And she was the first one that I saw, and it was a poetry book. And at first, I was like, I don't read poetry, but then I realized I write poetry, and even though it's not something that I publish or put out there, I felt like, okay, if I write this, that means I should support others who write this. And I took it on to just read some of the things that she put out there. I just wanted to give that shout out to her because the quality of her poems are very, very good, very, very deep. It makes you really, sit back and think and be like, okay, this is, I would not have thought about it this way. And you should really go out and check out her book. Be putting the link below in the description on what my in-depth review is, as well as how you can get her book to purchase so you could read it for yourself. Before I go, I just wanted to let you guys know that I am currently doing just a workshop on my blog going through how to basically plot if you're a pantser. And I know that sounds weird, pantsers don't plot, but as a pantser, I found myself kind of stuck a lot when I'm writing certain scenes and I just can't get out of them. Like I don't know what to do next. And I've done a lot of tried and didn't work out methods of how I could get out of that. And I found that they worked and I wanted to share them. So currently right now I'm doing a wrap up of the series and then I want to go into outlining. I hope I could do more YouTube videos about just outlining how I go through my outlining methods and just share those things with you, as well as the softwares that I use to write and to do my outlining, and just share tips and tricks that I found that works for me that hopefully would work for you. I guess that's it for now. Hopefully I'll be able to post more videos like this more frequently. I want to do more reviews on my YouTube channel, talking about different books that I read, the different books that I didn't enjoy and the books that I enjoyed, and basically giving kind of like a spotlight for most of the indie authors that I'm starting to read and enjoy. Because there are definitely a lot of indie authors who are not mainstream, who probably don't have much reviews on Amazon that are very, very good and they don't get seen. Hopefully I could provide a platform for them, even though I don't quite have one myself, but at least, be helping each other grow. And that's it for now. Thank you guys for tuning in. Until next time.